The language here is, he will never feel that there will never be a time where David will not have a man sitting on the throne of the house of Israel. Okay, Kofi, what does this have to do with anything? Well, come back to Luke 1. Because when you come back to Luke chapter 1, the angel says to Mary that this throne of David, remember she's from the house of David, that this child who will be born to the house of David, God will give him that throne that was promised, that very specific promise of a throne that would never end. David had sons and grandsons and great-grandsons and so on and so forth, but none of them sat on the throne permanently. In fact, sometimes God would remove them because of their sins. But the angel says, one is coming who will fulfill that promise of being the eternal king who sits on the throne. This child, Jesus, who will be born, will be the fulfillment of that gracious promise. The promise of God's king in God's place, administering God's rule and blessing, not just to one individual land, but to the nations. This wasn't just good news for Miriam from Nazareth. This would be global good news. That Mary would be the human means by which God's ultimate savior, God's very son and the promised king that his people have been waiting for, Mary would be the means by which that king would enter the world. Really, in these words, we're getting heaven's summary, if you will, of the gospel itself. That a savior will be born, that a king will be established who reigns forever, and that God's good promises will be fulfilled, and they'll be fulfilled in a man named Jesus. Young Miriam has just received the greatest news any human being could ever hear.